Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those who are consistently viewing, thank you so much. For those who are new, welcome to the TGC family. It's an absolute honor, to have so many wonderful people viewing this channel, commenting. I genuinely appreciate it, and it's something that I don't take for granted. Thank you so much. It's very encouraging, when people commenting on the videos, sharing their insights and their understanding. And, it's a gift and a blessing from God, which I really don't take for granted. But bringing us to today's episode, we will be talking about what does faith without works mean, or how is faith demonstrated, all right? I love this because I want us to cover the full spectrum of who God is, all right, or how he is intended for us to function, or earth itself to function. Now, though we can't search out the fullness of God or finish God or get to the end of the knowledge of God, it is a blessing that each and every single day we get to experience and learn about a new part of him. And one of the greatest gifts that God has given us is the gift of faith, because it's his currency, or the spiritual currency, that anything by faith will take place. And of course, it's according to his will. He's not just going to do things that we instruct him to do, remember, because he's God. But however, things that are in accordance to his will, or in accordance to his promises, by faith will come to pass. It's inevitable. And anytime God releases a promise, remember, it's already done. It's not something that's yet to happen, or that might happen, or that could possibly happen. It's already done. But there's still a way that we must respond as the children of God. And we're going to look at that today, so that we can see the fulfillment of God's promises. Okay. Now I want us to look at a few interesting things. In James chapter 2, the writer, or rather James, highlights a very, very, very important thing, all right? And sometimes we think, and he reiterates it through different verses, in James. And sometimes we think we are waiting on God, but God is actually waiting on us. And we're going to see why I am saying that exactly. So James chapter 2, verse 17 says, "Even so, faith, if it hath not works, is dead being alone." Interesting. So faith is not, or does not stop at the basis of declarations, all right? But it is actually a proactive or an active work that we do. So the writer says that faith without works is dead, meaning anytime I speak on faith, but my works are contrary to what I'm saying, I'm not displaying faith, meaning that faith is dead alone. So meaning, and then in verse 26, James chapter 2, verse 26, he says, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." Verse 20, he says that, "But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead?" Meaning, just as God does not view our love for him with our words. So when you tell God you love him, he's not necessarily paying attention to that. He's looking at your actions. Because remember, love is defined in scripture, and God is love. So when I tell him I love him, I must know exactly what I'm talking about. So when scripture says that love is patient, love is kind, it's not easily angered, it does not boast, it does not seek its own, that definition. But so it's basically defined by actions. So meaning God, every single time, even when we upset him, because he is love, he must honor, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, from verse 13. Chapter 13, verse 4, So anytime God is angry with us, he must still display that chapter. He must be patient. He must be kind. He must not easily be angered. He must live that out. So love is based on action. So God pays attention to our actions, that when we say we love him, Jesus says that if you love me, keep my commands, all right? Meaning that the Lord associates love with our actions. So when we say we love him, are we keeping his commands? Or are we just honoring him with our lips and our hearts are far from him? Very important. But bringing us back to today's topic, faith without works is dead, all right? So faith is coupled with actions, meaning every time you display faith, or when God looks at you and sees the faith that you have, he looks at your actions. He knows the intentions of the heart, but what is pleasing faith is faith that's coupled with actions. Same with Abraham. His faith was imputed to him for righteousness, all right, because he believed God. And what did he do? God says that leave your home, leave your father's house, and go to a land which I'll show you. Now, this kind of faith is different because imagine you're leaving just at the door and people are asking you, hey, where are you going? You don't even know whether you're going to turn left, you're going to go right, you're going to go straight. He didn't know anything at all. He's literally just honoring God that, okay, you said I must leave my father's house and go to a land which you'll show me. Doesn't even know which direction. And God didn't say turn left, go right. Or, no, just kept leading him along the way. So God also leads you. So in your career, in your gifts, in your ministry, in every area and aspect, when God releases a promise, your preparation is what shows God you have faith. If God says, hey, I'm going to bless you with a business, and you're just sitting on the sofa like it's going to happen someday, somebody's just going to come through and call me, and fate is going to happen, and whatever it is, you might be waiting forever. All right. So faith without works is dead. So meaning we must take active action. When God says, I'm going to bless you with a business, the first thing you do, step into the presence of the Lord. Surrender this word to him. Speak to him about it. God, is this what you have said? Lord, this and this. And remember, if he's using a prophet as a channel to communicate, it's not going to be your first time hearing those things. It will always be that the prophet is there to confirm the things that God has been speaking about. Maybe God showed you something on social media, or something has just been on your heart, or you wake up every morning and you're just feeling this strong sense of, oh my goodness, I need to do this, or, and then God uses someone to say, hey, you should look into this, or something like that. So God is confirming his word, but our response must be works. Meaning you must go, because remember, God in some cases, or in a lot of cases, can only use you to the extent to which you have knowledge. All right. So Paul tells Timothy, study to show yourself approved. If Timothy did not study, he wasn't going to be able to lead the church of God. All right. So it's important that we understand that God seeks people who are going to be proactive in their response, not passive. So when God gives a promise, you are supposed to study. So you stay in the presence of God to know about the timeline, because God will then only expound on things in your private closet. So when a person releases a prophetic word, that's like giving you a puzzle pieces. And when you spend time with God, your daily relationship, as time goes, God is helping you put this puzzle together. And you'll see at the end that you've received probably 20 prophetic words. All of them, though they are revealing different facets and aspects, when you sit down with the Lord for vision, it's bringing you to one complete structure. All right. So that's why we need to act on things. So God, remember, after he releases a word, he now sees, okay, how are you going to handle this word? Are you just going to sit with it and assume or expect me to do everything, even though there are things that you can do? Or are you going to go and register that business? If I say that I'm going to lead you to law or medicine, are you going to go back to school and study in that specific field that I'm requiring of you? All right. And remember, what God calls you to, he provides for. All right. So if he says, go back to school, don't now start stressing that, God gave me a word about going back to school and I'm stressing about fees and funding. What school am I going to go to? Seek the Lord. All right. But walk in faith, because whatever he gives an instruction for, he has already provided for. So when God is saying 10 left, you are being introduced to what's happening there, on your left-hand side. But God already knew that, hey, I've put this provision. I know only at this age, her heart is going to be ready to hear what I'm saying, or his heart is going to be ready to hear what I'm saying. I know that at this age, I've placed people around them in that regard that will help them get to this place. So I'm only going to release the word at this time. All right. So it's very important for us to understand that faith is coupled with works. If you have faith but no works, it is dead. So the body needs the spirit to be alive. So we function in this realm of living with the human body, but the real version of who we are is the spirit man, or the soul rather. All right. So if that separates from the body, that's when there's no life in the body. All right. Same thing with faith, that if we don't display works, all right, that faith is dead. So when God promises you something, you need to go back and learn about this thing, learn about this thing. And we're so graced. We're in a media age where we need to also learn about the pitfalls of certain ministries. Remember, the devil cannot create something. meaning the attack that is going to hit the last 50 evangelists with, or the last 50 actors or models with, is the exact same attacks is going to hit you with. It's not new. You're not going through it as the first person, and no, it's things that have already been set up in link that, oh, okay, these guys, all we do is hit them like this, maybe with the love of money, maybe with the lust of the flesh, maybe with the pride of life, and his intention is to remove you from God. So you study also the pitfalls of what God has called you to. If God has called you to run a business, study the pitfalls. If you know that people hit you in getting into the wrong dealings, work on integrity, work on your character. If you know that you have not been treated right at the current job that you're working at, be the boss that will treat people right and that will extend grace, and all of those things, So the Lord requires for us to study toward what he's calling us to. Study to show yourself approved. If God has given you a promise, study on those things, learn about those things, read books, read material. If God has called you to be a prophet, a pastor, a creator, read on those things, learn about those things. How do I edit? How do I do this? Because God, just because you have God's backing does not mean you don't have to put in the work, or you shouldn't put in the work. It means that you need to do above and beyond the world itself, because they're going to come and look to you and say, I want to serve this God that these people are walking with, how they live, the way in which they talk, the way they walk. They're stress-free. They don't worry about money. They don't care about the cares of life, but still they have every single thing that I need and want, So it's important that we exceed that which the world does, and remember, messages like this are not just for, I'm always honest when I'm not just speaking to people, but when I'm also speaking to myself, that there's areas that I need to be proactive in, that I need to learn and grow in, So it's important that we take God serious, that sometimes he's not waiting on, we're not waiting on him. He's waiting on us to say, hey, look, put the work out there, do something, hey, I've given you these ideas. Are you putting them into play? So a lot of the times, like, God, yeah, more ideas, yeah, more concepts, more things. And God is like, hey, look, be faithful with what I've given you. When you finish this, then I'll give you the next set, So remember, his word is a lamp, unto our feet, or a light unto our path, So it's very important that we understand that a light or a lamp can only give you so much as light to see the steps that are in front of you. So that is for trust, that, hey, look, I'll show you the next step, but after you take it, you'll be able to see the next one. So I'm not going to show you the next 20 steps, because you're not going to do what I've told you to do, or you're going to be so swamped, or start with the other things instead of the first basis. But what am I getting to? What am I alluding to? That faith without works is dead. It's important for us to understand that God does not perceive our faith by how much we declare things. I'm this, I'm that, and I'm a chosen person, or whatever it is. It's by your actions. So if God says, hey, I've called you maybe into business, or I've called you maybe into entertainment or theater or whatever it is, the moment that word is released, because the word of God cannot return to him void without doing what it has said, it's as good as done. It's already fulfilled. He has already done it. It's just time that will bring the unfolding of the word. But the moment God said, it's already finished. So now our faith is now taking actions. If you're, for example, a musician, practice, prep your voice. If God is giving you the ability to write songs, if God is giving you the ability to write plays, just keep writing, keep harnessing that gift, because when the opportunity comes, it is now the test of, did you prep all of this time, or are you just going to freestyle what you've done? All right. So it's important that we don't blame God, but that we align and understand that, hey, there's an expectation of us. We are called to bring forth faith by our works and with our works. So faith is my posture within my heart. My works align and agree with this faith. And both of them function as a body and a spirit, that for them to work, there must be an existence of the soul and the spirit and the body itself. So there must be the existence of faith, and there must be the existence of works. So whatever God has instructed you to do, people of God, I encourage, let's read on it, let's study it, let's learn about it, let's apply, let's practically do things. If it's school, whatever it is that God has called you to, let's be proactive. Let's do what God has called us to, so that we can see the fulfillment of the words of the Lord. thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I absolutely love and appreciate each and every single one of you, and pray that this message has blessed you and that it has brought, that spark back into your heart regarding the promises of God. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you in the next episode. Love you guys.